Hello everyone, we're back with elections. Now, you should by now have had a look at the data from the Oxford election of 2015, and it's evident from that that our first past the post system has a number of profound problems associated with it. What we're going to look at now are some of the alternative mechanisms we've got to try to deal with that. Now, as we all know, the outcome is not proportionate. You'll remember that in those five Oxfordshire seats, the Conservative Party polled 48%, and yet they got 4 out of a possible 5 votes. We can have a proportional system. A proportional system seeks to allocate the outcome in proportion to the votes cast. That's one way of dealing with it. The other way of looking at these things is to try to get a result that is supported by the majority. So we've got 2 specific problems here. One, the outcome is not supported by more people than oppose it, and the result is not proportionate. And as I said, we have got different mechanisms that we use to deal with that. So the supplementary vote is used to generate a majority result. In terms of generating a proportionate result, we've got the additional member system, the single transferable vote, and the closed list. And we're going to look at the closed list because it's the easiest. We're going to start with that, and then we're going to move on. And just in case you missed that, I do it again here. So the additional member, closed list, and STV. AMS here is used in Scotland and Wales and the London Assembly. Single transferable vote in Northern Ireland. And the closed list, which we're about to look at now, we would associate that with European elections. And there's some maps just in case you're feeling a bit baffled. So closed list, which are used in the European elections. Mechanics. Large multi-member constituencies. That's the first thing to make clear. So in the general election, Scotland has 59 constituency MPs. You'll know, of course, that most of those now are SNP. In the EU election, Scotland is jammed into one single monster constituency that actually returns 6 representatives. So there are 6 seats on offer in Scotland. We then, of course, have to work out how we're going to fill those 6 seats, but everyone just gets the 1 vote. Your punter still just gets 1 vote. However, that vote is cast for the party, not a specific person. The party leaders instead draw up lists of candidates, and seats are allocated according to a percentage of vote returned. So basically the top of the list gets elected, and then you work your way down. That's a bit abstract. I'm going to show you exactly how that works. So here we go. I can't remember exactly which election this is for, but you'll see here that the Conservative Party has 10, 10, 10, and all of that way. And then poor old Barker, there's not Mr. Barker, of course, he's standing as an independent. Now, this is a preferential order, so depending upon how many seats are allocated to the Conservatives, they will work their way down this list until they've filled all of the seats that are on offer to them. The punter, however, just gets to make a single vote, and that vote goes to the party, not necessarily the people themselves. Now, the UK is divided into 12 constituencies. Each constituency returns between 6 and 10 representatives. Allocations are based on percentages. Well, we've already discussed that. So if you have 6 representatives, one party gets half of those, then they get half the seats. It's really fairly straightforward. Okay, now this is the map. You should recognize, pardon me, that is the map from 2010. Here we go. These are our Euro constituency. So as I said, Scotland, they're one big constituency. You'll see there are 59 constituencies there. I think it was 59 in 2015, but we'll double check that. Scotland here, one big constituency with 6 representatives, I think we said it was. London here, you can see tiny little constituency geographically, but look how many look how many members it returns. So London, you're looking at a population of 7.4. Well, hey, you can look at that. Each of these particular constituencies gets that many representatives. The easiest way to look at this is probably to go through a worked example. And so we're going to look at South East England. This is from the elections from 2014. This was the outcome. These are the lists. So in this instance, UKIP had a list of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 candidates, and about the same there for the Conservatives. Now they got 32% of the vote, 30% of the vote, 14. Yes, you're right. UKIP beat the Conservatives. Look how many Green got. They got 10, just under 10% of the vote. So That's how it worked out. Everybody, remember, was just voting for a party. So you posted your vote next to the party. We have a closed list. All of these lists are drawn up by party members with their preferred candidates in declining order. What happened next was that they decided that 4 seats would be allocated to UKIP, 3 to the Conservatives. So all of these guys here, Barry, Simon, Alan, Nigel, and so on, they missed out. They were too far down the list. The UKIP got 4, so that was 1, 2, 3, and 4, and we can see that there. Dan Hannan, Niraj Deva, and so on, Richard Ashworth, those are the 3, so 1, 2, 3, there we go, Marta to Richard, all of those lot, they missed out. They were too far down the list. That's really about as much as you need to know in terms of mechanics. Obviously, I can discuss it with you later, but this was the outcome from 2014. The UKIP there, the biggest single party, about 26% of the vote. This was anomalous for all sorts of reasons. It was the first time a national election had been won by any party other than the Labour and Conservatives for about 100 years. It was the first time that neither of these guys polled over 30%. I mean, this was a truly, truly weird election for many, many reasons. But the key thing to work out here is this. This is the number of seats they got representing us in Europe. So 24 seats, 32% of the vote. And immediately it's obvious that this is okay. It's not perfect. 26% of the vote, 32% of the seats, 24%, 27%. It's not perfect. It's not pure proportionality, but it's a damn sight closer than anything you're going to get with first past the post. The outcome, this is perhaps the single most important thing to think about it, is that when you use the list system, because things are allocated on a proportionate basis, look at that, and no one really dominated the polls, no one really dominates the seats, you're not going to get a position where anyone has overall control. And that means you're looking essentially at consensus politics. That means you start from different places and you try to wind up at the same place. Everyone starts with different points of view. When you're dealing with consensus politics, what you're trying to do is bring all of those points together to reach an agreement. There are no such things as safe seats. No one is ever secure. The vote varies wildly from year to year. There's no such thing as a safe seat. We have a relatively proportionate outcome, and indeed we have representation from minority parties. Now let's just flick back to that. You'll see that the BNP there lost 2 seats. So clearly they had representation, and in fact, yeah, we can go back and we can see that they won 2 seats in the prior EU election. In terms of bad things, restricted voter choice, you can't choose your candidates, you can only choose a party. There's electoral opacity. That means it's not immediately clear who your vote went to. When you go into first past the post, whether your vote works or whether it fails, you know who you voted for. In this one, you're not entirely clear who got your vote. It's not entirely sure, which candidate really won your vote. So there's a degree of opacity there. It's not immediately clear how the result is generated and who you voted for. It also increases massively the power of the party managers. They get to draw up the list. They get to say who's at the top and who's at the bottom. So in terms of that aspect, you could almost argue it's anti-democratic, but you can't have it all ways. And it does very much dilute the relationship between the represented and the representative. Remember, if you're in London, you've got 8 representatives to choose from. Who do you go to? It's not quite so clear-cut as we have with the first past the post. So as with all things, you gain bits and you lose bits. And that, I'm afraid, is very much the nature of electoral reform. Now, if you have a look at this particular first past the post outcome for Oxfordshire, imagine then if you had a list with Melanie and Nicola and Ed and John and David. That's essentially how this thing would work. But we can worry about that and maybe discuss that later. Anyway, that's the closed list system. Relatively straightforward, certainly the most straightforward of the alternative electoral systems that we have to look at. Next up, wow, is the single transferable vote. We'll go with that one next, and I will see you there. Any questions? You know where to find me.